Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions regarding this watch. Today we are discussing a long-running classic in the Vacheron catalog. This is the reference 43175 in rose gold. It is the Vacheron Constantin Patrimony Perpetual calendar. It's a large watch for a QP, and as a dress watch, 41 millimeters is sizable, and it's 41 but thin at 9.3 millimeters thick, and reasonable at 48.5 millimeters from lug to lug with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. I say 48.5 is reasonable from lug to lug because on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, I've got a little bit of clearing on each side, so you can wear this watch well on a wrist my size. Because 41 is large for a QP dress watch, I'm going to recommend you wear this watch on a wrist no smaller than 15 centimeters circumference. It is quite thin, and with a sloped bezel and a domed sapphire, it will slide easily underneath a dress cuff or a formal sleeve of any kind. Here's your over-the-top. That angle often exaggerates the width of the watch across the wrist. I prefer to go by down the barrel where you can really see where the lugs sit, and I'm pulling the strap pretty tight here too. Strap's high grade. Leaves nothing to be desired. It's what you would expect from Vacheron. Taking a look at the top, you can see large, rectangular, symmetrical scale alligator leather. That always is indicative of a high-quality cut of the animal. It is a very dark brown, semi-gloss. You can see in profile, it has a monotone stitch and a cut edge. It's a cut edge with lacquering for refinement. And then on the bottom, small, round scale alligator. And you can see a Vacheron factory strap in brand new condition. The benefit of having round scale gator on the bottom is double gator creates a strap that may last up to years longer than if there were calfskin on the bottom. More expensive by a few $100s, but this watch is worth it. We have a double folding clasp. One oddity on Vacheron watches of this era, the buckle was always fixed by a screw, and I know what they're getting at there. They didn't want the strap to pull through the buckle. That can happen with the deployant clasp. It's rare, but they wanted to remove the chance. They wanted to go from like 0.05 to 0 in terms of probability. And so that is now at 0. We have a double folding mechanism. It is friction fit. You can see it has a little bit of an element to the Maltese cross. Here's another element of it there. It's the logo of the brand. There's media blast and polish internally, and you can see right there the maker says Unrock. That is the maker of the clasp spelled backwards. That is the clasp maker Cornu. Taking a quick look here, you can see that the clasp is fixed by its other side of the strap using a screw and a bar. Rolling around to the case, it's beautifully made. You can see a nice sharp break between case band and lug. You can see that it really has a lovely concave profile to it. That super sharp break, I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit here. But that super sharp break between the surfaces achieved by welding the lug into a slot on the side of the case and then using a file to remove all of the gathered material from the weld for a super sharp break between lug and case. That is slow, artisanal, handmade casecraft. The oldest, and in my opinion, the best and most luxurious. We have the Maltese cross, again on the crown. We have two pusher adjusters on that flank. We have more on the opposite side. They are used to adjust the perpetual calendar and the moon phase. Now, taking a quick look, you can see that the case has a little bit of negative tumble home as it slopes down towards its case back. The bezel is stepped in slightly and very flat. It's conical, but very low angle. Taking a look at the crystal, it's got a little bit of a domed profile, and then you get to the dial, which has a lovely soft granular finish to it. We have these little dot style or dimple style golden minute indices. We have solid gold applique hour indices, and you can see that they are faceted at the quarters 6, 9, 12, and 3. The hands, they are baton-style hands, and they are half frosted for better contrast against the dial base. And we have slightly sunken sub-registers for the day, the date, and then the hybrid month and leap year indicator. It almost looks like this is one hand. There's actually two different hands. One is your leap year phase indicator, one is your month indicator. That is a coaxial register. So the perpetual calendar doesn't have to be touched until the year 2100. Leap years, it can handle. Irregular length months, it can handle. February 29th, not a problem. And this is a perpetual calendar style moon phase with the 135 tooth gear, which means it only needs adjustment once every approximately 122.6 years. So a very impressive system. Perpetual calendars are very simple mechanical computers and sort of magic to me. They're one of my favorite genres of complication. Now on the back, you can see a few things. First, we know this is pre-2012 because it doesn't have the Geneva seal on the case as well. Fortunately, it has it on the movement. Now, this is a Geneva seal caliber 1120 QP, or as they designate it numerically, /3. It's based on the JLC 920 Bausch, created by JLC on commission to AP, Vacheron, and Patek in 1967, and it was only ever used by those three brands. It's powered a number of landmark references, such as the original Jumbo Nautilus, the original Jumbo Royal Oak, many perpetual calendars from Vacheron and AP, and it was in its day one of the absolute thinnest automatic movements ever made. It was never used by JLC or any of JLC's other clients, so it remains elite. And there is a lot going on. First of all, it's a unidirectional winder, and you have this mass on one side, but you can also see that there's this beryllium ring that runs all the way around. The idea is you can sink the rotor and the mass super close to the bridges and base plate without any risk of them contacting each other under a condition of shock. And that's because at all four corners of the movement, there is a ruby roller bearing that supports that beryllium ring so that it is physically held off the bridges and the plates. They can never come in contact, no matter how much shock. So that's how this base caliber can be 2.4 millimeters thick, and with the QP added, it's still just 4.05 millimeters thick. Now, it's got a power reserve of 40 hours and a quirky beat rate that sort of shows the age of the movement at 19,800 vibrations per hour. That was right up to the minute in 1967. It's a bit anachronistic today. It is a 36 joule movement, and it's adjusted in a chronometer and high horology style 5 positions, and it is also finished to a high horology standard. As if the Geneva seal weren't enough, you can see solarization on the ratchet wheel as well as the crown wheel core. We have a satinated and beveled click. We have beautiful rounded, broad, and mirrored bevels on the edge of every bridge, all screw heads black polished with chamfered slots in circumference. We have stripes perfectly laid parallel across the bridges, engine turning on the base plate. You can see we have a rotor that has been skeletonized with mirrored bevels internally that are beautiful and difficult to achieve. All this 30 meters water resistant. And then we have a balance that's been converted to a free-sprung gyromax style architecture, very similar to Patek Philippe. All the adjustments are done with the eccentric screws on the rim of the balance. So not only is this a more shock-resistant system, but it is also one that is easier to adjust precisely than with a conventional mobile stud index and curb pins. So there is a lot to love. And then you can see Vacheron Constantin and a 21 karat rotor. Beautiful. Swiss complicated watchmaking at its finest, from one of the great holy trinity brands in its métier, the dress watch. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.